Well, hello. Every gal needs a cowboy hat.
Scanning the room, you look for a familiar face. Everyone is a stranger. Your heart's racing, you feel nauseous. New plan. You meet 4 new people. Okay, 3. 2? You can handle 2. And then you think, I hate this. This just feels so fake. And before you talk to even 1 new person, you're looking for the nearest exit.
Okay. Crazy. Yo, who invited this chick?
My heart races when I walk into a room full of strangers too. Except it's not anxiety, it's excitement. I'm not thinking networking quota. I'm thinking, look at all these stories. And I get so pumped about talking to people that I don't know.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Hello, everyone. Well, today we are going to be talking about stories with a great guest. And most manufacturers struggle with both telling their story and then sharing it. So that's where I come in. My name is Gail Robertson, and I am Chief Curiosity Officer with GailNow. I use a 3-step process: sign up, suit up, and show up, because that's where the magic can really happen. And especially in this new digital world that we've been propelled into, well, everything has been happening a lot quicker, but there's so much opportunity and there's so many stories to share. And our guest today is someone that I started watching on social media, specifically on LinkedIn. And wow, I just saw these amazing videos. And he is an epic storyteller through video. And we're going to be bringing him on as a guest because he is none other than the Manufacturing Millennial is in the house.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Gail.
Welcome. I am so happy. This is exciting to have you here as a guest because, well, I've been following you for a while now. We're both in the Manufacturing Mafia group that you started, and you're doing some amazing work on LinkedIn. And I'm just going to encourage everybody to please, in our studio audience today, to drop some comments. We can welcome our guests today that are out here to hear you. And we're going to hit a few different topics that I know, whether you're in manufacturing or even if you're not in manufacturing, a lot of these ideas will really resonate. So let's go over to the comments. Welcome a few people that are here. We have Inger is in the house. Looking forward to this. Hope you can join us. She's tagged a few people from the PT Expo, which is the Plastic Technology Expo that's coming up. And Brian says, and here we go. I don't know if you two are connected, but you definitely need to connect because Brian is using video as well. He is doing some really great things out on LinkedIn and really edgy. You know, what I like about what Brian's doing is that it's using humor, and definitely he shows up. We have Cynthia in the house. Cynthia, I work with her. She does some writing in not only in manufacturing, but specifically in the mold making world. So very niche. She has a lot of knowledge. And look at here. Go Cubbies.
Go Cubs.
We have Elizabeth. Now she's in my local area here, Elizabeth, but she works with a lot of small businesses and she is a LinkedIn whiz as well. And we have a fellow Jake in the house. Jake Northrup is with Cavalier Tool, and I'm sure he will, maybe Jake will drop in some questions and comments to you because, you know, engineer to engineer as well. Mm-hmm. And Valerie Weber is happy Camel Day, everyone. I like that. Oh, we have more people. Jake, they're just rolling in. So we have awesome. James Kunkel. Okay. Hello, James. Yes, we have to get in touch and connect with one another again, reconnect. It's been a while. Christina Harrington. I think you know Christina, right? I think.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to leave the comments now. We're going to start the show and then we'll come back and bring in some more comments because I think we're going to have a lot of that happening today. So let's start, Jake, first with a bit of your background because you originally, you went to school for engineering. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about how you went from engineering to where you are now in a sales role.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is engineering. I've been involved with manufacturing pretty much my entire career. I started working at a custom machine builder when I was 16 years old and went to Grand Valley. I got my product design and manufacturing engineering degree, and then biomedical engineering as well. I minored in, and I went right into the world of automation distribution. So I was selling PLCs, vision systems, collaborative robots, everything that really an automated piece of equipment needs to run. And I really enjoyed the experience for me because I've always been more of a people's person. I love to have relationships. I love to foster conversation. And so I stayed in the automation robotics industry, helping manufacturers by, providing them with needed equipment.
Now, what I like about that, Star, is that you are a people person. And I often hear, though, I know people that are in the sales world, especially, in manufacturing, mold making, plastic injection molding. And they are also very good at, they know how things work. I often say when we're talking about mold making and automation, the people that make things. So these are all the people behind the scenes. But here's where things start to change because they're good at that. They can go to trade shows. They can talk to people. What made you stand out for me, as well as I think a lot of others, is that how you managed to shift over to social media and especially using LinkedIn. So can you talk about that? And maybe for people that are coming from an engineering background or are uncomfortable stepping into that limelight versus meeting people in person. Can you talk about how that works? And are you just a unicorn here, or or how did you adjust?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit, the work from home thing became a lot more common. And me being able to visit customers in person at their facilities and stuff was going away. So I said, I'm going to turn to social media as a source of creating content around some of the products. For me, I'm a believer of stop selling your product and start trying to solve problems. And I think in a way, social media allows us, or what we have through social media is we can share about how problems are being addressed in the industry, how manufacturers are leveraging technology to address those problems. And I think, share it in a unique way. Social media is interesting in an aspect that the watch time for a video is very short. So you have to get content out very quickly. And I think it really challenges a lot of manufacturers of what is the story you want to share at a very fast rate. People, a lot of times marketing companies will build out these very complex line cards and case studies. But, you can have a 3-page case study. How many people actually read a 3-page case study unless that is very specific to their problem? So I kind of went to the philosophy of I'm going to create a much wider piece of content that's going to attract a lot more people and then hopefully engage the conversation that way. So I left that distributor about a couple of years ago. I now work for a company called Feyen Zylstra. We're a systems integration company, an industrial tech company that helps manufacturers and end users with their modernization needs. Everything from upgrading equipment to building out an automation roadmap with their digital transformation into a smart manufacturing operation. So my brand, the Manufacturing Millennial, what I do on a daily basis is really unique for being able to leverage social media as a way to share my story on why manufacturing is important, why adapting new automation into manufacturing is important.
Okay, so making that change over to using social media, is there any tips you'd give for people who are maybe reluctant? Like I find so many knowledgeable people in the mold making, plastic injection, automation world. They have all of this knowledge, but they're not wanting or willing or able. I don't know what that, like they're not actually starting to share that on LinkedIn. Yeah. What would you suggest to those people that are maybe listening today or later? What are some tips you would give?
Yeah, I think some of some of the tips that I give right away, I guess we can go into 3 things. One is social media and engagement is a two-way street. Don't expect a lot of people to engage on your content if you're not engaging on other people's content. And that was one of those things that I focused on my first year of really trying to grow my own brand, was posting less on my own content and trying to interact and give ideas and give my feedback and give my thoughts to all these other people in the industry. And then the other piece of content that I do is, or I guess recommendation is, grow your audience in terms of reaching more people. So many people, I think, get trapped in this idea of, oh, that person right there is not my direct qualifying lead of who I would want to talk to. So I get so wrapped up in spending 2.5 minutes writing this invitation specifically to this person that person can just simply look at and click delete, and you'll never hear from again. I am in the firm believer that quantity on social media leads to quality. And it's different in a lot of areas where people would pick quality over quantity. But for me, if I can reach a much wider audience, I have access to channels at a much quicker rate for the right people at a company. Because for me, a handshake to a person you want to talk to is a lot more of than it is trying to reach them blindly on social media. So that's my recommendation is, grow your audience as quickly as you can, even if that audience might not be a specific end user. Now, I'm not talking about go connect with anyone, stay in your industry. Like for me, I am still, even though my following is over, I think, close to 35,000 people now. If they're in my manufacturing or automation robotics industry, I have no problem if they send me a connection request and reach out to me. But if this person's in a completely different industry, I don't really see a lot of value in it. So a lot of times I don't connect, but people are pretty open to connecting with people who are in the same industry. So leverage yourself as not a person who's just trying to sell a product right away, or your service. Just be a person who's in the industry who wants to grow their network. And I think that's the approach that a lot of people need to take, rather than, honestly, if I get an invite, or if I get a sales pitch right away through my invite, or hey, this is what I do, I want to work with you right away, I tend to defer from that, because it's like you don't even know who I am by engaging in my content, yet you're immediately asking me for services. For me, I would take a different approach. Build your own brand, and then a lot of times then when people begin to like, comment, and engage on your content, that opens up a door for a discussion, because their engagement is now to you rather than for you to them. So that's kind of my recommendations. The other thing I would recommend on social media is a game of engagement. So find out how your content is very engageable quickly. If your first 3 seconds of whatever your post is, or your video introduction is, or whatever, is a company logo, no one wants to come watch a company logo. Honestly, no one cares about your company logo. It was very, I said that to when I do some consulting work for some very large companies, like Fortune 100 companies now, I'm doing consulting work with. And I said, no one cares about your company. And they're like, it's like, seriously, if you're posting on social media and your first 10 seconds of your video is just your company logo doing some fancy swirling thing, no one cares. They already scrolled. So what are you doing that's going to create engagement right away? And I think that's just something different from a social media perspective and how we create content compared to a more of a brand push on some larger marketing campaign. A couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with some super large influencers on the TikTok industry. Natalie Rose, she has like 100 million views, 3 million followers. Casey Rosenberg, he has like 3.5 million followers. I mean, just a scale of difference compared to what I am with 35,000 on LinkedIn. And their stories were really interesting for the fact of like how a local influencer or how an individual creator can compete with a professional Hollywood brand when it comes to content and social media. So, keep that in mind as you're a manufacturer and you're wanting to create content. You don't need a production studio to create content that's going to reach an engaging audience. well, Natalie Rose, let's put Natalie out there because I love highlighting what other people are doing. Natalie created a video that had 27 million views. 27 million views. And she shot on her iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many companies would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in script and producers and editing and equipment to get 27 million views? You know, so it's just keep in mind, authenticity drives more engagement than production in a lot of cases. So I think that goes to the same thing when I'm sharing content on social media is what is my authentic thoughts around a brand or a solution that, you know, I'll partner with a company to share and highlight. You know, a lot of companies are like, hey, Jake, will you post this video within your following? The answer for me is always no, because I want to add my own thought process to it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be something where I truly believe at the end of the day, they're helping move manufacturing forward to help, you know, small to medium-sized businesses, which is where a lot of my passion lies for growing the industry here in America. And North America. I mean, so that's just the big thing of does your content, you know, talk in a way that's driving engagement and that's authentic and doesn't feel, you know, produced. I think a great example is Ryan Reynolds. He is a big time A-list celebrity, but he shoots his own commercials. I mean, he has a studio producing behind him, but he shoots his commercials in a sense where it feels very authentic, personal, low quality, but he gets a huge reach. I mean, between his cell phone business and then he's got like a gin or something like that, but he creates content in a way that feels a lot more personal, where he's creating in a way for the everyday person to reach content. And I think that's what a majority of our audience here is on LinkedIn and social media is the everyday user. It's not that big wig target person where you're looking for a massive C-level person to sign off on a check. You know, you can hope that, and listen, if your company is there and you're just simply targeting those, you know, high-level people, then is social media even a reason for you to be doing B2C? You know? So I guess that's kind of my thoughts on social media and engagement and my approach on how I started, you know, how I create my own content and how I curate my content in a way that is engageable to others.
And I think that's so key what you said, that we need to sort of get out of our own way, as I like to say, because sometimes we overthink, question everything. And pretty much everyone I've interviewed that has talked about social media, they always say the posts that sometimes they put together quickly, or that they, you know, they felt strongly about something, decide to write about it. Those are the ones that are the most engaging, the most that people identify with, because it's more natural. It's like having a conversation with someone, right? If they're just telling you a story that they've just experienced, it has much more power.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I shared a post, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I'm looking over the screen right now, just talking about how it's a meme. It's literally a meme, and I wrote it for encouraging people to learn new skills. Well, this one blew up. It has 1,000 likes, like 50,000 views, which is big for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then another post that I thought would go really well had only like 9,000 views. So it's interesting to see how the audience, you know, for me, I'm still trying to figure out what creates viral content.
Yeah.
And I kind of have it figured out. I mean, if my posts aren't averaging 20,000, 25,000 views, I'm kind of like, what did I do? Did I not post it at the right time? Did I not use the right, upper, lower, third descriptions? Was my sentences not engaging? Did I post at a time where LinkedIn's algorithm is recommending a previous post I made over my new content? Because like that's another thing that I figure out. If I have a post that gets huge views, like last week I had a post I think had 100,000 views. My next 2 or 3 posts will not get as much reach and engagement because LinkedIn is recommending a post from several days ago to the audience. So
yes,
it's that whole thing of like, you can drive yourself crazy trying to figure out how to get viral videos or viral content on social media. But I think it's one of those things too, is going back to Gail, when you were talking about your audience, it's not about, don't get stressed out about that one post that you need to be perfect to go viral, because then if it flops, you're like, oh, I can't do anything now that's going to make my that my audience is going to like. Don't worry about that. Just worry about getting content out there and adding your own thoughts and ideas to it. And that's where, you know, it goes back to the whole entire thing of connecting with people, quantity over quality. I think it's important also to push out quantity in the sense of your posts, and what you're pushing to social media, more than just trying to always have the best quality post and video or image that you've developed over time. Now, don't go to the full extreme of completely saturating your posts. You know, for me, I'm in the firm believer of one post a day is all you need. And if you do less than that and you do 3 posts a week, great. You know, do what you're comfortable to start with so you don't get anxiety and burn yourself out. But don't be a person that's posting 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. I think it just kind of saturates your brand or what you're trying to share.
That's what Twitter is for. You can post a lot.
Exactly, right?
Twitter is a machine.
Twitter's a great platform for that.
Yes.
LinkedIn, not so much.
You know, Jake, that's a really good point, because I started early this year, really focusing, or last year, I guess, on LinkedIn. I wanted to make that a bigger platform, especially in manufacturing. And I decided to set once a week because I wanted to make it manageable, something I could achieve. And now what's happening is I'm starting to post more often, but it's also coming. I just did one about cycling, right? And that one was easy to write because it was very, you know, I just came off this whole thing of tenacity. And I thought that's a good theme to go with, because sometimes we don't want to do some of the things. Sometimes we think, and I've heard this, well, I don't really want to post. And I always tell people, well, it's 2022 now. And it's not really an option to say you don't want to use social media if you're in sales, and especially if you're manufacturing, because if you wait too long, you're going to get surpassed. And already, like, I always say it's never too late. Like, jump in now. And what I see you doing is really important, because you're leading the way. So when you say I only have 9,000, views, that some of us would go, holy jump it, but it's all relative, right? So if I get, on my cycling post, I think I had up to now, I'm kind of approaching 1,500 impressions. That's like, wow, that's a big, post for me. Right. Yeah. But then that's because I really have, 2,800 followers or whatever. So to me, and I think if you have, 100 followers and you get an impression of 50, celebrate that too. We have to sort of celebrate every step along the way until you can achieve the goals. And as you know, you're helping me, and we have that spreadsheet, and I sometimes go, and I know the accountability is also really key, having that spreadsheet. And when I go in and look, if I haven't posted something in the chart, I go through
every Sunday for the people that I'm helping mentor, to grow on LinkedIn. And I'll be like, okay, you didn't update this week. I'll send you a message. What's going on?
I'm going to get on that for this by Sunday. I better update it. So let's go over to the comments for a minute, and then we're going to come back, because there was a question here I want to address, and I think you've answered it. So let me see. We had, where do we leave up? Oh, we have Katie McDermott in the house. She was just on Damon and Kurt's show. Amazing. She also loves manufacturing, has a great deal of passion about it. Really glad. And we see each other. We cross paths in Twitter chats and in webinar shows. And that's another thing. When you're out there doing these things, you're crossing paths with people, and it's fascinating, the people you can meet. Brian is also with Cavalier Tool. He's in estimating, but getting more and more into the sales role of things. And we have someone that just says LinkedIn user. So I'm not sure who that is, but I think we had Katie said, I wonder if that's, she said, hello, Whitney. Hey, girl. So we have Katie McDermott, Brian. Oh, this is the question from Brian. So he says, where do you get your video content? It's amazingly done. Professional company, the client, yourself.
Yeah. So a majority of the raw B-roll footage, as I like to call it, I get from the end user a lot of times, the manufacturer, the company that I'm working with. And then I'll edit that content a lot of times to fit my production style that I view as the most engageable. So I'll get raw footage and then I'll edit that raw footage to however I see fit within that under 60 seconds piece of content that I want to hit on, because a lot of times there's a lot of great video in there, but a story a lot of times can be told at a much shorter rate and still get the exact same impressions and walk away. I love criticizing movies because like I love ripping apart from it, and I have a really hard time enjoying movies from that perspective of like, this scene adds absolutely zero value to it. Why does it exist? You're deteriorating from the flow of the story. You're losing your momentum. The heartbeat's dropping. The same thing with videos on LinkedIn. How am I creating content that's consistent? So if the company doesn't have the footage, I do have video production equipment behind me, Blackmagic 4K cameras and video editing software to do that. But I'll take a majority of the time the B-roll footage from a customer, edit it into my own format that you kind of see on LinkedIn with my blue upper lower thirds, that style, that format, and that's all done by myself. And I taught myself how to do it. So that's one thing as well. I am not a guy who has a background in videography or anything like that. I literally started creating my first videos on Microsoft Windows Player. Like it was one of those things, and it'll be my 2-year anniversary on LinkedIn on Friday of when I posted my first post on LinkedIn. Wow. It would have been 2 years ago this week. And it's one of those things is my big advocacy is to get millennials and Gen Zs involved with manufacturing because they love technology. They love to be challenged and learn new things. I'm an example when it comes to creating content on LinkedIn. I taught myself just by watching YouTube how to do video editing. And I use a very, very basic video editor. You don't need Adobe Premiere or anything like that. I use Wonderware Filmora, which is like $100 software I bought for unlimited upgrades and licensing. I mean, you can buy software out there for $40 and you'll do exactly what I do. So you don't need very expensive video quality video editing software to make content. I think people get trapped in that a lot. So, I mean, to answer that, Brian, I'll go into one more thing. I use Canva a lot as well for my content. So Canva is another great tool when it comes to producing graphs and images and information that you want to display visually. Canva is an awesome tool as well. And the exact same thing, there's a ton of templates that are already out there. I change up the colors, I change up the design to fit more of my brand. But if I have a question, I go on YouTube and I teach myself how to do it. I think that's just the one thing as well. 2 years ago, I had under 500 connections on LinkedIn. So it's one of those things is it was a grind to get to 35,000. I mean, it was not a story that happened overnight. And, there's other podcasts out there where I talk more about that in specific. I don't think we need to go into here of my grind of 30,000 people, but it's one of those things where it's a time investment, but the investment pays off well. And I think it's one of those things where LinkedIn was around years before I was involved. There were hundreds of people sharing content on LinkedIn. I just took a different approach, and it people loved it. And I see a lot of people who are growing as well, highlighting content in the manufacturing industry. And I love it as well. I that's the whole reason why I started the Mafia group. And Gail, you're a part of it. Vlad, I see you're in here as well. Is how do we get 20 more people to start sharing and highlighting content on LinkedIn that's engaging and that can really advocate our industry at the end of the day?
And I want to add to that because, a couple of things. One is that you do really well and are working with me on is also consistency and, it like that chart that I need to update more regularly, but it does help having that because it does help keep me on track. Even if I stray for a bit, and it's okay. I've given myself permission, due to a lot of other things on my plate, but as I said, no excuse because I still have had time to binge watch some Yellowstone. So, I do know at times how I use my time, right? So, yeah. But having that consistency and deciding, like when I decided I was going to post once a week, that was a really important step. And then it's a matter of, trying to also go now. And I mean, it's fascinating because I can go and engage in content, learn and meet new people. So that's something that's so important. And you know, your videos are phenomenal. And I just want to say this to anybody out there that's thinking about it like, oh, well, I can't do that, or I'm not at Jake's ability. You can do a lot with your phone. I've learned where I really did more videos when I was doing more on TikTok, because it was more just to learn how it worked, understand the algorithm. And once I started throwing stuff up and not really caring whether it was like perfect, and it was amazing. Some of the ones that would take off, I'm like, really, that one took off. And then ones I would, you know, work on didn't do as well. So I think the key thing is, you know, to get out there, try it, and you really can't break it. Like, I think this is the thing people fear. Like, well, if I post something wrong, yeah, you might put the wrong tag. I've tagged the wrong and had to go back, correct it, or Twitter, you know, it's like the wrong tag. That's always an issue, but because you can't edit there. But I think if anything, what you're kind of where you're that beacon, Jake, where we want to work towards.
Yeah.
If we could get to do it. But like you said, it didn't come easy. It's not an overnight success. You didn't. And I'm just, wow, I didn't realize that only 2 years on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And
so I'm posting you a few, just a few posts. These are, so I've literally logged back to like my first posts on LinkedIn. And these were just a fun ones that I shared that, you know, don't have a ton of reach. I mean, for me, these videos here have under 1,000 views. And I don't know, Gail, if you're able to click on those, open up a browser.
I'm going to try some here. I said, I don't know if I can post on, let's see if anything posts on LinkedIn. Oh, wait a minute. Looks like might be a post there. Oh, maybe that's on, I think it went to YouTube. I've never done that, but see, I just decided what's the worst that's going to happen. So I just shared it in the chat, but it's posted on YouTube now, not on.
I didn't know if you could share the screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me see.
Otherwise, it looks like I can share my screen as well.
Okay. If you can share your screen, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll just kind of,
we've never had a shared screen on here. So let's go for it. I say.
Perfect. Share screen. Boom. Awesome. So, I mean, here's some examples of like some posts.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I have to add to stream. Hold on. Here we go.
Okay.
There we go. Oh,
I mean, here we go. We're adding some
cool.
content.
This is exciting. Our first. See everybody how easy it can be done. There we are.
You know, you learned something new. I mean,
I know.
This was like some of my first posts that I ever did. You know, working from home, because it was a total experience for everyone. You know, this is when I had, you know, some young kids at home. We were running around, and, you know, I thought this was one of those things where, you know, could add some light of engagement. For me, it's always about what is staying trending in the industry, what is relative. And, you know, back in March, April of 2022, everyone was sharing their story of what it was like transitioning to working from home. You know, so this was a fun way for me to share a story of what that looked like. You know, when I was shooting, let's find another video real quick.
I love that.
You know, when I was creating a lot of posts, you know, it was me literally, here's a video of me back in my basement. Literally, I took my setup was my camera. I took a lamp, tilted the lamp this way, you know, and, you know, so I had some front light, and I literally shot it on my cell phone talking about this. And it was one of those things for me. It was just, how do I share my story in an authentic way? And that's kind of one of those things for me that just a lot of people loved. Just having those conversations. I was talking about what it was, you know, it was, I kind of did an update, right? It's day 2 from home. You know, another video, I think it was one of those things where I almost turned it into like a daily vlog, you know, Gail, where, hey, it's day 3. I'm, you know, outside now filming. You know, it's day 4. And it was one of those things for me is I kind of just turned it into a brand. Holy cow, it's me not wearing a hat. That's not a very common thing.
I know. You're off brand. You're off brand there.
But it was one of those things for me that it was engaging of talking with people. That was, you know, and I did it in a way where I this was a vibration and heat sensor. So I literally took it and hooked it up to my smoker outside. And then I was monitoring the temperature vibration of my pork butt smoker, you know, but it was one of those things is I think this is what it shows in, you know, Megan just kind of hit authenticity and transparency, but it's one of those things for me is, just sharing your own personal story to content is just as important as the content itself.
And you know, it's important. What I find is, and I like it, so I do that as well, as mixing in some things. Like I'll talk about cycling. I sometimes in the past, you know, I mentioned my son. He was the one actually who did that intro video, and he did a video for the PT Expo. I was doing a promo, and we just did it in my living room, and I was like bare feet. I was like, okay, before he was heading out, I said, oh, can you just video? And someone mentioned how great it was because he does this kind of zoom in thing, and it was done. I think that was only 2 takes. And I said, you know what, good enough. I'm posting it. And that's the one people have commented to me about that video. And it was done late at night. I was tired. I even said, I go, oh, there was like black under my eye from some like my mascara or something. And I had a friend, she goes, I didn't even notice that. Okay, I'm the only one that noticed it. But yeah, once we get out of our way, it's amazing. Your toilet paper, this one is cool. So
like for me, it was one of those things like this is my thought process of like learning how did I start engaging in creating my manufacturing highlight video, you know? And so for me, like I started adding titles, and then I got feedback and saying, oh, that's not really working out. So then I went out and let me see what this post is. This is like throwback to like, so then you can see here, I added a bar on the top so it sticks out more. And then I started using my hashtag on the bottom, you know, so you can kind of see here, this is my developmental thought process of learning how video content was created over a long period of time. So we could see, hey, that was just an embedded video I had up in there. Well, then I added a tab on the top, and then you know, so that one didn't have the tab, but I'm, you know, figuring out, hey, follow for more manufacturing videos, and I'm kind of building out this brand slowly. This is actually really fun for me right now because some of these videos that I haven't seen for years. You know, I think for this one, I started to turn from a vertical to a horizontal because I viewed content as that way. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So this right here, this was one of my first ever viral posts at 45,000 views.
Wow. I love that you're showing where you started and where, like, because sometimes we wait until everything is perfect. We've got all the right logos. And I love this. And you've motivated me to get back on track with doing more video for myself because I love doing it. And what happens is I'm like, oh, I've got time to edit it. And Jake, you have motivated me today.
And here's the thing. So before this, I'm looking back at my numbers. My first 25, 30 posts never even reached 1,000 views. But and that was the whole thing for me. This was my first post that went off, but it took a long time to get there. And that's just the whole thing for me is I was trying so many different pieces of content to figure out what is my audience like to see. And, you know, it was one of those things, listen to your audience and feedback, find out what they like, find out what they get engaged from, but also stay true to yourself. You know, because I could go out there and I could just be a person that posts viral technology videos. And yeah, if I wanted to, I could have 250,000 followers on LinkedIn by the end of the year just by sharing viral content. But that viral content doesn't go to my story of wanting to highlight manufacturing and automation. So it's one of those things of balancing about what works for you. And then also, you know, what's viral. Let's see. I'll do one more video.
Okay. You got to read what Megan wrote. This is funny. Some of your videos do. Yeah, we get down that rabbit hole. That's like, oh, well, I'll go watch what else he has on
Yeah.
here. And oh,
Well,
this is because
yeah,
now we all want to know what? How does that work? Let's go.
and that
Let's
was one
go
of those
do a
things for me.
search.
Like when I saw this video, I said, "Oh wow, people like to see." And maybe what I'll do is I'll take this video, I'll rebrand it in a way to show how fencing's made. But I think it's one of those things where you don't really know until you post, and that's the one thing. Don't get so focused on content that you think needs to be perfect. Just share.
Yeah, share. That is. And by the way, this is another, Phil stepped in to say that's a cool video. And Phil is also on a board with me at, because as I mentioned, the Canadian Association of Mold Makers and Automate Canada. I want to do a shout out. Those two boards I'm involved with.
Yeah.
So,
And so here you can kind of see a little bit more as this is beginning of June. So this is about 3.5 months after I've been posting. You can kind of see how my template's beginning. I have a upper and a lower, and I have my hashtag that's consistent now. And I have my logo that's consistent now. And I have my follow. And so it was one of those things where as I got deeper and deeper into stuff, I beginning to figure out a brand that works. And because for me as well, when you're competing on stuff for LinkedIn, your brand recognition attracts a lot of people to watch your video. And so for me, having a consistent colors and format and flow, people will stop to watch my video because they know it's a Manufacturing Millennial video.
Right.
By not even looking at my name or the profile picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thermoforming. Sorry, that is so cool. That is because I work more in the plastic injection and the injection molding. So that's so cool.
Well, I'll get you this video and you can share on your page, Gail, and get 50,000 views.
Yes, I might. I'm gonna have to come and
send me a message. I'll create a video for you to post on your channel. How's that?
Okay, we'll do something about, because this is a good. And then we're gonna switch now. We're gonna go bring you back on. One of the things, because I do want to touch upon before we need to wrap up, the idea of this is a good transition. Now we've talked about your transferable skills going from engineering into sales because you have this knowledge, and then you're learning things using YouTube, which is great. I use YouTube once to get a light fixture down. I found using a rubber shoe and a plunger. Anyways, that's another story. So we've done transferable skills. We've talked about the transition from in-person talking to people and then over to social media. And now let's switch also back to how to connect using social and going to trade shows. And I know you have a lot of trade shows. I'm going to PT Expo, which is a plastic technology expo at the end of the month. And it's all about what I'm excited about, all the stories of plastic, right? Because I am fascinated about the world of plastic and how, people focus on, banning plastics when we really need to talk about proper disposal and recycling. That's a story for another day. So let's go over to trade shows and talk about how to use social media and showing up at trade shows. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, companies do a horrible job when it comes to trade shows, to leveraging social media for trade shows. Let me see if I can find these numbers real quick because it is really mind-opening. While you look for that, and I'll just talk. So one of the things that Jake has done on his social media is he goes out and shows up at these trade shows. We've had talks at the last Manufacturing Mafia group about how to actually share content from the trade show floor. So it shouldn't just be that you go and talk to people. Like I always say, if a tree falls on the forest and no one is talking or sharing, did it really happen? So you are someone who, do you want me to add your screen, Scott? No. I got the numbers in front of me. We're all set.
Okay. All right. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, here's a couple of interesting numbers. So I went to the Assembly Show, which is an automation trade show in Chicago last year. I think it was October, November timeframe. Well, here's the numbers. I surveyed 185 exhibitors. I went through, I got the exhibitor list off of line, and I did research on every single one. 23% of exhibitors at the Assembly Show who literally spent at least $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 on their booth, hotel, travel, all that stuff, minimum of $20,000. 23% of them didn't even have a LinkedIn page. 64% did not post on social media that they would be exhibiting at the trade show, and 59% did not even post while they were at the trade show that they were there. So my question is why do we have such a discrepancy between investing in in-person events and networking, but you're never willing to create that conversation that will carry on past that event? I've never been a part of big trade shows or marketing campaigns. I would love to know the data of all of the leads you get from a trade show as a result of you handing out pens and squishy balls. What percentage of those actually turn into a second conversation? And a lot of times is because at that time, they might not need your solution, but if you were to have have them engage in your social media, your solution could eventually be at the front of their mind when that problem comes. So if your only touch point with a customer after they visit your trade show is you sending them emails, you lost, in my opinion. Because if they follow your social media or follow your page, they're going to see you a lot more indirectly than you just bombarding them with email campaigns. And like, for me, that's why I am a firm believer of growing an audience and just sharing content, because when that customer is ready and they see my content, then they'll reach out to me because they're ready for it. And I know it's a completely different mindset because marketing and all that, we need this amount of leads coming for the trade show, and this is how we're qualifying it. Sales, in my opinion, and maybe this is just the business that I'm in with Feyen Zylstra and how we're working with companies, sales is not a 1 week process of going to a trade show, walking out for lead and closing on a deal. If it is, congratulations, you're in an awesome industry. I'm happy for you. But for me, it's one of those things where it's a much longer touch point. And the value that social media has on trade shows is a couple things. One is, if you're creating content on a trade show, you're creating content for future posting. And your trade show, you're going to spend $20,000 in a 1 week period of time for this highlight event. But I'm surprised a lot of companies don't create content at the trade show to be reused and redistributed after they leave. That's a big issue that I see. I think another thing, as well as the amount of companies that don't even post that they're going to be at the trade show, is mind-boggling.
Yeah,
why are you spending all this money to go to a trade show, yet you are not actively telling your audience to go say, hey, we are here in person. We have all these cool demos. Come and visit us. And I think a lot of people right now are excited to get out of the house. They've been trapped inside for the past 1 or 2 years. For those who didn't go to trade shows or conferences, since the pandemic started, you're giving them a reason to go out and engage and have those conversations. So if you're a company who is going to be at conferences or trade shows this year, what are you doing to engage that excitement leading up to that show? And I think that's really important.
Here we have someone says, can we tell sales reps that trade shows are a long game too? And I know there was a comment back from Dan at one point, I think back, and he said, stop, Jake, I am laughing. Yeah, because I've worked in a previous industry too, where I went to the owner and she said, I don't even know why are we keep going to the trade shows? Because and I work a trade show. I work my ass off at a trade show. I'm all in and gathering leads. And then what would happen is, and this was a previous industry, we'd come back and they never followed up on them. I'm like, I just spent all this time talking to people, writing notes on things. And then you don't have a spreadsheet that says, what are you doing with these leads so that we can track them? And so yes, I think it's so important. Just like we talked about, building leads and connections on LinkedIn. Guess what? There's a common thread here: consistency and having a process of follow. Whatever you do, make sure that you are, and even if you fall off, I think it's important to get back right in the game. And so thank you for that, because I think with trade shows coming up, we really need to utilize that valuable tool, because it's a lot of money being invested in trade shows, a lot. And
absolutely it is.
So connecting the dots is crucial. We have some chatter back and forth. I just want to see if there's anybody new here. There's a couple of LinkedIn users that I don't see a name, but we mentioned about Phil Glennie being here. Megan's here. Hello, Megan. And here's a shout out. And so she said, your TikTok channel is great. Is that you have some fun videos in there that showcase who you are, and that's important. Yeah. So I at first was like, the funny story about TikTok, I was like, when people in my manufacturing network group, they were saying, oh, what's your channel? What's your handle? I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if I want you to go see. I'm just like, as if it's some side, no one can go find me. So then what happened? I'm like, okay, go see it. It's crazy. It's fun. And it has really taught me a lot about video production. And my son has taught me too about the need for jump cut. He said, because now when I watch them, I'm like, I see what they're doing. So,
yeah.
Well, I know we have a hard stop coming up. So I do want to get to, a couple of other things that we talked about, maybe just quickly say the importance of getting more youth into manufacturing. You do a lot of work around that. I'm just going to tell this quick stories that when I guess you went to a show a couple of years ago and you were one of only 2 people that were probably under 40 in this 400 to 500 group of people. That's how you got the name, how you went with the Manufacturing Millennial.
Yes.
And I think it's really diversity across so many, barriers, like whether it's age, gender, we really need to start looking at how to build out manufacturing. And as someone who has walked a few shop room floors, been to trade shows, I tell you, it is a fascinating world. I didn't come from this manufacturing world, but I'm learning about it. And I tell you, I think we need to get more parents on board to start not wanting their kids only to be doctors, lawyers, teachers. There are so many other opportunities out there, and not that doctors, lawyers, teachers, that's important, but maybe offering up some other opportunities. You have 2 young children. So do you think you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old? Do you think that, I am sure in your household opportunities will be wide open, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll encourage my daughters to be whatever they want to be. I would love for them to get involved with some sort of STEM program, science, technology, engineering, math. I think it's important for any career to look at that. But, at the end of the day, it's my daughter's decision, and I'll do my best to support them as long as they don't want to go into something like, crazy that I'm like, gosh, no, that's not why.
You know what? Yeah, they might. You never know, because you know what? Whatever you think you don't want, that's exactly what they will do, right?
We'll see, but I'll love them regardless.
Yes, I know that. Knowing you as I do. So, because we're starting to wrap up for time, how do you exercise your curious brain?
Oh man, how do I exercise? Well, I think I kind of shared my storytelling of, curious how to create content that's engaging. I kind of showed you through my curious brain of like my first videos that I posted all the way through my transition to creating more of the viral content that gets shared and liked a lot. It was one of those things. It was trying, it was learning, it was getting feedback. I love asking for opinions like, hey, what do you like about the video? What do you not like about the video? What attracted you to the video? So I always love to ask people, hey, I saw you like my post. Why'd you like it? And getting that, feedback, I think is super important. So Curious Brain is how to create content and make it engageable is how I exercise it.
Well, I put my 3-step process up because I think that you are a champion of that, because you definitely come in with the right mindset. The suit up is really the research, using YouTube, learning how to do things, and then showing up, which you have done. So you definitely are a star of my 3-step process. You get full marks on that because, being able to show up, you sometimes show up too, even when you're not ready, even when everything isn't perfect, you still need to do that. And whenever I've done that, I agree. I think watching you, I think today's show, what is most magical was that process of where you started in your basement through to where you are now. We all need to see that. People that are listening today in our wonderful studios, there's been so many comments. I hope you'll go back, take a check and see who's who in the zoo, because there's some great people like Phil Glennie. And I know Jake Northrup already follows you. And then, the Dan Bigger is in the house. He came in over lunch. Great to see him. We have, Kurt Anderson even popped by. So, and one of the things that is so phenomenal about some of these people that are in the chat is that they've helped open door. Like I know Sam Gupta, Kurt Anderson connected me to Sam Gupta. And then there's this whole chain of connections I've made. So All right. Well, thank you, Jake. We will, I will make sure I get back on updating my chart for LinkedIn, because it is working though. I have been able to see that I'm making
Awesome.
those
Keep it up.
incremental, change. Yeah, I will. I'm not going to, I will not give up. I may slide every once in a while, but I'm also, one of the things that's important to give ourselves some grace at times. And I'm learning that, so that if I drop off, I try not to say, oh, well, that's it, I'm not going to do it. I'll just get back on the horse again, and back I go. So Sunday, eh? Okay, now I've got my weekend Saturday. I usually go cycling Saturday morning. So after that, I'll come back home and okay, have a great day. I'm going to just wrap up, but I'll send you off to the green room, and I know you have to head out. So we'll talk soon, and see you over on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Gail.
Thanks, Jake.
See ya.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, Jake. There was so much more we could have talked about with Jake. He's just phenomenal. I'm not sure if I knew that he's only been on LinkedIn, 2 years, and managed to get up to 35,000 followers. But one thing I know about how Jake works is that it's all about process. He is doing some mentoring with a few of us, to help us make some of those gains as well. And what we've talked about is how to do it in the right way too, to be, do some engaging. And one of the things about growing LinkedIn that I found is that it's not just about posting, it is about doing that engaging. And because I'm fascinated, about plastics right now, I've been reaching out to people, and often what I say is just, hey, I'm really interested in plastics. I see you're in this world. I just wanted to connect. And then and sometimes I go make sure I follow along a bit of their profile. Another great way to meet people is, go listen to a podcast and then go comment about their time in a podcast. And I'm sure Jake would appreciate everybody here today going and following him. You won't regret following and learning about him. So again, my name is Gail Robertson with GailNow. And for anybody that is interested and wants to learn how to sign up, suit up, and show up, you can follow along on LinkedIn. I do have some fun TikToks, but I haven't done much lately, but I'm probably going to try to get back on that again. Thank you, Megan, for those words of inspiration. I better get back on it. And Twitter, I'm still very active on Twitter. That's sort of the place I do a lot of connecting, met great people there. A little bit on Instagram, and all my previous shows are on YouTube as well. So, if nothing else, start somewhere, start a process, decide you're going to post once a week, once a month, twice a week, whatever you decide to do, be consistent. And then look at where Jake came from in terms of, starting from his basement, leading right up to where he is now with his branded videos that are phenomenal and doing exceptionally well. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week. And remember, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, so enjoy responsibly. I'm going to be doing some work with a local couple of businesses that are doing a collaborative approach. My favorite is looking at how to do collaboration. Okay, have a great day, everyone, and see you next week on Show Up with GailNow Live. And thanks to Jake.